What's up everyone? In this video, I'll be explaining how to install a non-freezing outdoor water hydrant the correct way. If you guys haven't already considered subscribing, go ahead and click the subscribe button and hit the bell image to get notified of my next videos. Also, if you feel like supporting the channel, head over to patreon.com/GOT2LEARN and become a patron. Alright, so as you can see here, I have an ordinary drain cock type water hydrant in my backyard, and I'll be replacing it with a non-freeze quarter turn water hydrant like this right here. So let me start by telling you why you want to replace your typical drain cock hydrant with one of these if you live in a country with a cold climate like Canada. When it starts to get cold outside, in order to keep your pipes from bursting inside the house, you need to isolate any pipe that is in direct contact with the cold temperature inside, in order to keep your pipes from freezing with a valve like this one right here. The disadvantage of having a setup like this is that you could potentially forget to close it when it starts to get cold, and have a pipe burst inside the house, causing thousands in water damage. These types of water hydrants eliminates that factor by closing the water supply inside the house every time it's closed at the exterior, using a rod type stem as such, which is a very clever idea. This hydrant also has an anti-siphoning feature which allows water out but not back in. So let's say you have a water hose in the grass where there's dirt and other contaminants, and the city decides to cut the water off for maintenance work and creates a vacuum. Nothing will be sucked into your potable water system, which is also a nice feature. So let's go ahead and install it. So the first thing that needs to be done is to close the main water valve to the house, or any nearby valve that'll isolate where the work is being done. After, you'll need to let any excess water out the system like this. Once that's done, you'll need to remove the existing valve. I basically cut mine right here and pulled it out from the outside, and it came right out. Next, since I'll be converting into PEX piping, we'll be installing a female adapter on now, as it'll be much easier than if done when the hydrant is installed. So get yourself some Teflon tape and wrap it around in a clockwise direction, as if you put it on the other way, when tightening your fitting, it'll tend to want to come off and might eventually leak. Then, if you have some on hand, apply a bit of pipe dope on the Teflon to remove any chances of having a small leak. I've always done this way and I've never had any leaks. Now go ahead and tighten it and use another wrench to make sure it's held properly. You can see mine is in a vise, but it's not recommended to do this as you could damage the inside of the valve. While I'm at it, I'll also crimp on a piece of pipe to make sure I'll have access to the crimp ring if ever it's too close to the wall. Here's a neat little trick when crimping a fitting. Grab a pair of pliers and gently crimp it so it stays in position when doing the final crimp. These tend to move when using a crimp tool and could get quite annoying, so this little trick makes it that much easier. With the valve all dressed up and ready to be installed, let's take a look at what needs to be done inside. Since we're transferring to PEX, I'll need to install a copper to PEX adapter. Seeing I won't be needing the valve that was used to isolate my exterior hydrant anymore, let's remove it and solder on a copper to PEX adapter. Now, even if these aren't meant for drinking water, you absolutely need to solder with lead-free solder for the installation to be up to code. Just a quick parenthesis here, if you got to this stage and you aren't too familiar with soldering, I have a very good tutorial on how to do so. You could check it out by clicking the link in the description box down below, or just use this card right here. So go ahead and solder on the adapter, and wait for it to cool before attempting to connect a plastic pipe on it. While that cools down, we'll install the actual hydrant. At this point into the project, I got into a little mishaps where my new valve was too big for the hole, which was to be expected, since the old one was ½ inch and the new one is 1 inch in diameter. So at first, I tried enlarging it with a 3/4 inch steel pipe, and to my deception, it was only a waste of energy. I was left with only one option, and it was to rent a rotary hammer drill with a 1 inch drill bit, and it worked like a charm. It did take a little bit of fiddling to get it in, but it worked out great. So let's finish installing it. When installing a non-freeze hydrant like this, there must be a slight slope towards the exterior to let all the water out when closing it. This is what differs from an incorrect installation to a correct one. To accomplish this, I basically use a small wooden shim and tuck it under the valve as such to give it that slight slope. Once that was done, I drilled 2 small holes using a masonry bit and fastened it with 2 stainless steel screws just to make sure they don't rust and break down in time. I suggest using some exterior silicone to cover the joint so that critters and cold air don't enter the house. Let's go back inside. The only things left to do are to make the final connections and test everything out for any possible leaks. Now you can see why I assembled everything before installing it. It would have been impossible to do so now due to the lack of space. So go ahead and install your pipe, crimp your fittings, and you're done. Let's turn the main water valve back on and test everything out. And as you can see, there aren't any leaks and it's exactly what you're looking for. And here it is in action. I love the quarter turn feature compared to other models that take forever to close. I did pay a little extra for this, but hey, it's well worth it. The last tip I have to give is whenever closing the water for winter, remove any hose that's attached to it. This is very important, or some water will stay in the valve and damage it eventually. If you guys learned something from this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more. And until the next one, thanks for watching.